I'm Steve, owner of skis.com, and today we're going to break some ski boots apart and really kind of look at them to see what the differences are. What do you get when you pay more money for a ski boot, and do you need to pay more money for a ski boot? All right, let's start with the shell. Now the shell is the part that you see on the outside, and the primary purpose of the shell, besides obviously holding the liner, is the flex on the shell. As you go up in price in ski boots, you typically are getting stiffer shells. Now, stiffer shells are better for more advanced skiers, but not necessarily for beginner skiers, because a beginner skier needs a boot that's going to be easy to put their weight forward and flex the boot, because the critical part about a boot is you need to be able to flex it. So typically people who are beginner to intermediate will want softer flexing boots, typically in the 50 to 80 flex range, and more advanced skiers will want harder flexing boots, or 90 to 120 to even above that. Unfortunately, not all boots list the flex rating directly on the boot, but we do have the flex ratings on our website, so you can see exactly what the flex rating is for your specific foot. Other things that you'll find in the shell is what's called a dual density shell. As you go up in price, what you'll find is the shells are made out of multiple materials. This one you can see it real clearly. The gray material that you see here, and there's some of it on the inside of the boot, is a softer material, and the red material is a harder material. So the red material on the outside of the boot keeps the boot nice and stiff, yet the softer material on the top allows the top to be able to fold over and comfortably hug your foot without creating a pressure point or torquing in the insides of the boot. The last category of shells are your twin tip boots. Now you don't have to have a twin tip boot in order to be a twin tip guy, but a lot of the kids are doing that these days. The twin tip boot offers some unique features that are specific to the kid that's going to go in the park and pipe. The differences are, as you can see from this one, there's only 2 buckles on the shell rather than 4 on a standard boot, which allows the boot to be able to have a lot more bend in it, a lot more ability to flex the boot forward. Secondly, they're often taller, giving more support. The biggest difference is they have shock absorption built into the boot. Usually some gel in the heel pad or something, because when you're going to the pipe, you're landing hard on your skis and you want something to take that jarring out of your foot. So those are the primary differences between the shells. Now we're going to talk about liners. Liners are what your feet really feel. It's kind of the thing like a glove that you put your foot into. So this really makes a difference, not just in fit, but also in performance. Here we've taken the liners out of the boots. This is an example of a very basic liner. You can see it's basically a couple of materials sewn together, a simple tongue, nothing really fancy on it. This is what you're going to typically find in your less expensive boots. As you go up in price, one of the things that you're getting is really a lot more features in the liner that are designed to help give you a better fit. For example, here's a liner that comes out of a higher end boot. It's got a couple things going on. For one, it's got a neoprene toe box on it. So for a good fitting boot, you really want your toes right up against the front of the boot, at least feathering it. And with a neoprene toe box, it doesn't bother your toes so much because it can push against the front and the boot will still fit fine. You'll notice there's a reinforced tongue here with plastic on it. This boot has stiffeners on the top. You can actually put stiffeners in here. But most importantly is it's what's called a lasted liner. Here's an example of a real lasted liner, where they literally build the liner around a plastic molded foot that's exactly the size that your foot is, that you would buy the boot in. You can see this one, it's got materials along the side, it's got some indentations here, and it's stitching, so it really hugs and wraps around your foot really well. Same on the inside, you can see it's got a really thick tongue, which is designed to really help it take that shock if you're hitting the moguls or jumping your skis, and really hold, the back is designed to kind of go in so that it can really hold your heel in. So the higher end boots have more lasting in the liners and more sort of custom fitting around it to make them fit better. The other thing you get in the higher end liners is some form of custom auto fitting type material, memory foam or some other type of material that will typically heat up and sort of move around a little bit so that it'll actually over time kind of custom mold to your foot. Lastly, we've got women's liners, and women's liners are pretty much the same as men's, although this particular one's got a nice little feature in it. It's got fur, soft, cushy, warm fur, which is really nice. The ladies like that. This has actually got a rubber piece on the tongue to really give that soft, supple kind of feel, so you don't get that little pressure point on the tongue that sometimes can bother women. Speaking of women's boots, the other thing we want to really talk about is what are the differences between a women's boot and a men's boot. There's a whole video on this that you can see in more detail, but basically a women's boot are typically a little narrower and a little softer, but the biggest difference is women's boots are shorter, and that's because women's typically have shorter legs than men and their calf muscles are lower. And a lot of women find it very difficult to buckle a boot, especially a men's boot, because their calf muscle is too far into the boot to be able to get a snug fit. So by having a lower cuff and a lower liner, that makes women's boots much easier to fit. All right, the last thing we're going to talk about is features, or what I like to call creature comforts in a boot. These are the little adjustments that really dial in a boot. Usually you'll find more of these on the higher end boots that really allow you to both dial in that fit and really make sure the boot is giving you the best performance possible, making that perfect fit between your knee and the ski where your boot hugs your foot, gives you a nice comfortable feel without any pressure points, but no looseness or slop in between. All right, the first thing we want to talk about is micro adjustable buckles. Most boots have at least 2 micro adjustable buckles. The better ones will have 4. Micro adjustments are this. All boots have a variety of places where you can buckle the buckle, but sometimes one's just a little too loose and one's just a little too tight. So a micro adjustable buckle is a buckle that you just simply spin, and it either gets longer or shorter that allows you to get in between. So now that one that was a little too long can be buckled just fine. Now those are micro adjustable. Now some people find that the buckles on a boot simply aren't wide enough, particularly at the top of the boot. Women sometimes have this problem as well as men, where the outer buckle just simply isn't wide enough. So some boots have an ability to actually move the buckle with a tool of some sort, where you actually will unscrew and then move the buckle to a different hole. It allows you to make it larger or smaller. Or some boots actually allow you to twist the buckle and actually slide it, like on this one, and then twist it back and it locks in place. That way you can you only have to do this once, and once it's set for you, that's pretty much all you'll need to do. The next thing we want to talk about is power straps. Now power straps are found on most boots, but as you go up in quality of boots, typically you'll get a beefier, thicker power strap. The third thing we want to talk about, which is, in my opinion, probably the most important of all features, is what's called side cuff adjustment. Sometimes this is referred to as canting adjustment, but it's really not canting. Canting is something else. This is really an adjustment for the cuff. And the way this works, I'm going to stand up here, is most people, when they stand up straight, are really a little bit bull-legged or a little bit knock-kneed. And if you're bull-legged, then you're going to be riding on the outside edges of your ski. And if you're a little bit knock-kneed, you're going to be riding on the inside edges of your ski, and neither of those are good. So what a cuff adjustment does is it allows you to adjust the cuff to offset that bull-leggedness or knock-kneedness so that you're perfectly straight up and down on your skis. That feature really helps you ski better, and you usually will find it in most middle to upper end boots, and it's a feature I strongly recommend. The next feature I want to talk about is flex adjustment. Most boots have a specific flex, as we talked about earlier, but some boots allow you to adjust the flex so that if you're going to be skiing moguls or hardpack, maybe enter a NASTA race, you can stiffen your boots up. Typically it's about 10 points in the flex pattern. Or if you're getting kind of tired or your knees kind of bothering you, you can soften up your boot. Now there's a couple of different ways you can do it. This boot's an example that has no flex adjustment whatsoever. This boot's an example of where it has a flex adjustment, but you need a tool to do it. So in this case, usually you're going to set it for the day, and that's pretty much going to be it. Or you're going to set it for your lifetime, and that's going to be it. The kind of boot that I really like is a boot like this, where you can actually adjust it during the day. And I'll actually usually start off a little harder in the morning, and then often soften it up in the evening as my knees get a little tired, and allow the boot to be a little more flexible. So that's really a great little feature. It helps both my skiing ability as well as making it a little more comfortable. Some boots have nice little features for helping you get in, like a hinged cuff. This boot from Technica is an example of a boot that has hinged cuff. I believe Technica is the only company that actually has that. And some have other types of adjustments in them that allow you to raise the spoiler in the back, or other little tweaks, vibration absorption, and softer materials on the inside to really allow the boot to kind of fit really, really nice. Okay, so that wraps up kind of the different characteristics of ski boots. I recommend from here that you go to the video of how to select a ski boot so you can actually pick the exact right boot and features that you're going to need for your skiing style and ability.